Hello and welcome to the Nature Unplugged podcast, where we are all about cultivating consciousness in the digital age. Let's get going. Hello and welcome to the Nature Unplugged podcast with your host, me, Sebastian Sloven, and co-host,
Sonia Mohammed. I thought you were going to introduce me.
No, that was your cue. Okay, we're back. Very excited to have another episode of our podcast, and in today's episode, we are going to explore tips, tools, and takeaways to create healthy relationships and boundaries with technology. So the purpose of this episode is to give y'all some practical and actionable items, things you can apply right away. And just to recap, our purpose here at Nature Unplugged, we're all about cultivating consciousness in the digital age, and that means creating healthier relationships with technology and getting people more connected with nature. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Indeed. Okay. Tip number 1. Create intentional boundaries around your tech use. Now, we dabble, we're really interested in wellness, and, there's a lot of research and talk about creating boundaries around when you start eating in the morning and when you end eating, intermittent fasting and things like that. And so this is, I think, a similar process where creating a morning and evening routine with your technology, where let's say you don't start using technology before a certain time, 7 a.m., let's say, or ending your technology use, screen time use, any of that at a certain time, like 8 p.m., for example.
Yeah, and I think you can even get a little more specific with that. When you think about, if you go back to relating this to eating, not only are we trying to keep in mind what time we're eating, how late, how early, but also what we're eating, how late and how early. So I think that also is something to be thinking about with our technology and media use. What is it exactly that you're doing right before you go to bed? And is that potentially going to stir you and activate you and energize you, which is right the opposite of what you're probably going for as you get ready for bed. So, as you start winding down during the day, start thinking about what am I using, and is it sort of helping me in my routine to get a good night's sleep, and just like you wouldn't, eat a piece of candy right when you roll out of bed. Think of it that way too, with maybe I don't, go for sort of mindless stuff right when I wake up.
Yeah, totally. I like that. I like comparing it to diet stuff. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes it tangible, like more helpful, easy to understand. Yeah.
I think the thing with this is it doesn't matter, I threw out 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. It's pretty arbitrary, but I think the main thing is that it makes sense with your schedule and that it's intentional. So creating, sitting down and thinking about, okay, having maybe it's 45 minutes or an hour in the morning before there's any tech use, any phone checking or anything like that, to have some sort of a morning routine, doing the things that energize you and get you ready for the day. And the same thing for the evening. Cool. Great tip, Sonia.
Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Let's go on to tip number 2 here. And this is, in the same line of boundaries around technology, or healthy boundaries. This is creating a tech-free zone in your house. So depending on the size of your house or where you're living, this could be a whole room in a house, or it could be part of a room, or it could be like a little patio space, or something like that. So it doesn't have to be a whole room, but ideally, if you have the space, setting aside a tech-free room is a wonderful practice.
Yeah, and we specifically advocate for tech out of the bedroom, like trying to make the bedroom a sacred space for sleeping. So not having a TV in there, not bringing your phone in at night or in the morning, no tablets, anything like that, which means, not using your phone as an alarm clock, which I think is a lot of people's go-to for getting up in the morning. But I'm sure if you do that, you've experienced, like we have, that you go to turn off your alarm and you immediately see like 4 text messages, 20 emails, 3 Facebook likes. So maybe you're not popular if you have 3 Facebook likes, 100 Facebook likes. I have no idea. And that's not helpful necessarily in waking up. It's sort of a very unintentional way to start your morning. You're sort of sucked into a vortex of like, what happened overnight. And so what's the word?
Crackers?
In that vein, we love the alarm clock we ended up getting. It's like a sunrise alarm clock. So a traditional alarm clock, just shows the time. But then not very traditional in the fact that it like lights up really gradually, like the sun rises. And we also have, there's a couple different features for the sound that wakes you up. You can do the traditional like bam, bam thing. Or
that was a good alarm clock.
Thanks. There's like birds, there's some harp. So it's nice. And so the idea is that the light sort of starts to wake you up gradually so that you're in a light sleep by the time the noise comes and it's not jarring when you wake up. But so the bedroom's a good option, but like Sebastian said, it really can be anywhere, any part of a room, any room. Another good option is like the dinner table or the eating table, making that a tech-free zone and holding that boundary.
Yeah, and we'll throw a link to this specific. I don't think the alarm clock we use is anything too special.
No.
It's pretty basic, but we'll put a link to the sunrise alarm clock in the notes. But I think any analog style alarm clock is helpful that doesn't have apps attached to it and things like that. Awesome. Okay, so what do we have so far? Recap.
Tip 1, boundaries in terms of time around your technology. So trying to create some space in the morning and some space before you go to sleep. That's tech-free. Tip 2.
Create intentional tech-free zones in your house. Could have been too early to do a recap.
Yeah, I think it was too early.
Too early. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, tip number 3. Well, I'll recap after every tip. Tip number 3. Creating tech-free space around eating time, around meals.
Mm-hmm.
So again, these are all kind of related, but I think it's really, really helpful a lot of times when we're working with clients to, sometimes this is already a practice people have, but oftentimes it's not. And creating at least one meal a day where folks are, whether it's them by themselves or in a partnership or family, where they have no tech for an entire meal as a way to be with each other, to enjoy the food, to be there, fully present for the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because otherwise, you're sort of ignoring almost the food or the people when you've got, it's really easy to, I guess I should say, to sort of ignore everyone else and the food you're eating if you've got a stimulating TV show on, or you're scrolling, or you're like, searching Amazon for something that you have been wanting to buy. So it's a wonderful practice of gratitude for your food, and then also of presence with the folks that you're eating with. Meals, can be a very social experience, and it's nice to preserve that.
Yeah. And we talked last time about mindfulness and all the benefits of mindfulness, and one of the benefits of having a tech-free meal, and there's many, one of them is that you're much more in touch with and aware of how full or not full you are. So I think with a movie or a show, for example, sometimes you can just eat for the duration of the show and not really check into see, am I really hungry right now? Do I really need more of this? And so I think it's a really helpful practice of being more aware of how full you are or not full. Recap? Too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon. Okay, this next tip number 4, is a really interesting one. I came across this. It was a blog post by a company called Telepathy. Telepathy? Anyway, for some reason the link is not up. We'll see if we can search around and find an updated link. But basically, it was a blog post by I think he's a programmer, the person who wrote this. And the title was How to Kill Your Phone Addiction with 4 Settings. And I'm going to kind of simplify the process, but it was really effective and helpful for us when we started to practice it. And basically, we have our smartphones, we have iPhones, and I think you can do this with any type of phone, any type of smartphone. And basically the purpose is you do a few things. First of all, you clear all of your, basically your desktop apps. I don't know if it's desktop is the right word, but the apps that are on your screen, you put them into one folder. So they're off of your phone. So they're not just sitting on the front of your phone. And you really use the search setting.
Spotlight.
Spotlight. Mm-hmm. So for iPhone, it's Spotlight. Mm-hmm. But generally, so it makes you a lot more intentional about how you use your phone. So instead of picking it up, looking at your phone and being like, okay, there's Facebook right on the front. You have to search. You don't see all those apps. They're in a folder that's kind of hidden. And you have to search for the specific apps you want to use. Mm-hmm. So another piece of this was to go into the settings and turn off all notifications other than the use of the phone ringing and your text messages.
Yeah, and to clarify, so like I used to have my phone, I used to have like 1 million folders, like really organized. These are for travel. This is for, I don't know, communication, you have WhatsApp, if it text, if it had Google Voice, or, anything that was used to communicate, social media, photos and photo editing, etc. And so the idea is, instead of having all those different folders, putting it all into one folder, and then that folder living somewhere it doesn't matter. It can be on like the bottom toolbar if you want, but or the second page, just not having it on the desktop. I'm sure there's a word for that, but I don't know what it is. The primary home screen of your phone. And it makes it inconvenient enough, because we all have 1 million apps, that when you click into that folder and you start, perusing around for the thing you're looking for, that it encourages you to use the Spotlight feature, so that you're like, I want to go on my phone to check the weather or to look up this article, and you don't get inadvertently sidetracked by the notifications from other apps pulling you into them.
Right.
A lot of people have experiences where they, been on their phone for 10 minutes and then have the thought of, like, what was I just about to do? I had a purpose, but then you're, I don't know, in a article vortex of, 4 ways to lose 50 pounds in 3 days or something.
4 ways to lose 50 pounds in 3 days? That's incredible. Yeah. So I guess the essence of it is, and we'll search for the link in the show notes, but the essence of it is just intentionality with phone use, mm-hmm. and not, because there's as Sonia said, there's so many. I think we probably all experience this. You go to do something, and then all of a sudden it's been 15 minutes, and you're just whatever, scrolling on Facebook, looking on Amazon, looking at the waves. That's me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's really been an effective few changes on my phone and how I use it, and wanted to share it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Recap? No, not yet. Okay, tip number 5. This one's
our final tip.
Final tip for this episode.
Yes.
This isn't all. We're going to do different tips, tools, and takeaways episodes. This is just one. Okay, the final tip, number 5. This one isn't so much of a tip, but a healthy reminder. Healthy? Helpful. Both. Okay, so here's the tip / reminder. Just a little check-in that you out there listening, me, Sonia here, everyone around us, we're all going to die. Is that too extreme?
No, we're all mortal beings.
We're mortal beings. So this is a reminder of our mortality. And so how is this relevant to tech use? Well, I find it very helpful and effective to think about this because we have it's an incredible thing that we're here alive in this world, and we have a limited amount of time. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that. And with social media and technology, it's sort of easy to get sucked into spending a large amount of time scrolling around or searching around and not really living with intention or living, the life we want to live. And I think by that reminder, it helps reframe things to be like, am I going to spend this morning, on Facebook, or am I going to get out and do something I want to do, or read something I want to read? I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's actually an app that we came across recently, and this is maybe a funny thing, but it sort of just messages you rather randomly, reminding you that you're mortal, that you're going to die at some point, maybe soon, maybe later, who knows. And it's useful, as you said, to be reminded of that occasionally, or to sit with that occasionally, because it can really change and inform the way you go about your day and the things you fill your day with.
Yeah, it's a cool app. It's a funny thing though. I don't think you need the app.
You don't need the app.
You don't need the app. But just a helpful reminder in the morning, something to be like, I'm alive today. I have this is a gift, and what am I going to do with this? I think it's a helpful thing, helpful framing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the time to recap.
Yes, this is the appropriate time to recap.
Okay, Sonia, take away the recap.
Tip 1.
Recap.
Creating intentional boundaries around tech, your tech use. We're talking about time in the morning, time in the evening, where you're not using technology. Tip 2, creating a tech-free zone in your house. And so we're talking about a physical space in your home that is free from technology or devices. For us, it's the bedroom. Tip 3, tech-free meals. Trying to have at least one meal a day where you're not using technology or devices. Tip 4, this is about your smartphone, getting all your apps in one big folder and using a Spotlight search or the equivalent on an Android phone or Google phone, so that you are not sucked into a vortex of notifications. And tip 5, remembering that we're not here forever, and being intentional about how we use our time every day, and using that as a way to help us navigate a very tech-heavy, media-heavy world.
Nicely done, Sonia. Excellent recap.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for this episode of the Nature Unplugged podcast. And again, in this episode, we're talking about tips, tools, and takeaways to create healthier relationships with technology. So, we'd love it if you could take a moment to subscribe to our podcast, rate us on iTunes. You can also find our episodes on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other podcast platforms. And be sure to visit www.natureunplugged.com for more information. And there's plenty of other resources on our site as well. You can also reach out to us directly from the site. And we'd love to hear your, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, ideas for the show, potential guests. So far it's been Sonia and I, but we will be having guests on the show. And until next time, be well. We'll talk to you soon. Remember to unplug from time to time.
If you think you should go, I will let you go. Oh, oh.